Hey guys, it's Jessica Leichtweisz, and I'm back. So if you have been following my content, you know I'm creating lots of videos every day to help you now that all of a sudden you're not only mom, you are the teacher. So some parents have been messaging me and saying, look, it's just not working. I'm trying all these strategies, and yet my kid just will not sit with me. Well, one of my best friends is on here today, and she called me and she said, hey, I had this really great win while I'm homeschooling my son with autism. And I said, awesome. Let's make a video and share it with families because there's parents that are really, really struggling, and that might just be you. So Renee, thanks for coming on here and sharing what is working for your family while you're homeschooling your son.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jessica, for having me on your channel. And so first I'll share the victory. So the victory I had walked away from my child and come back into the room and saw him sitting at his little table, and I had some of his worksheets sitting out on his table, and I came back to the table, and all of a sudden he's sitting there doing his worksheets completely unprompted, and he had completed one of his math worksheets without even asking him to. And I was just absolutely blown away. And I'm going to tell you why that happened. What we had been doing, working towards that, was he has a highly preferred item. Now, we in our household, we limit video or screen time by quite a bit. So he has a highly preferred game, which is a Lego game that he absolutely loves. And so, prior to that day during the week, what we were doing is if he did one of his worksheets, he could earn time on that Lego game. And because it's such a highly preferred item, that really worked well to have him be motivated to do something that he doesn't necessarily want to do, to be able to do something that is a highly preferred item. And so that's kind of how we got there. And I'm going to show you some of the other strategies that we use, both myself and working with therapists just like Jessica in our home, but right now I have to implement by myself. And so I'm using these same strategies to implement him, to get him to do his work. And one of the first tips that I would really say is that you have to know your child, because there is just sometimes when my son is just not going to be ready or available or present with focus to do work time. So I do believe that you do have to be flexible, both in the home setting and in the school setting. Obviously, we're talking home right now, but we've had to teach our school to really be flexible with his school time as well and implement breaks, because his focus will fade over a period of time. So say he's working on a worksheet or something like that. Sometimes we have to break it up into steps. So even if it's a simple worksheet and say a neurotypical child might be able to complete that worksheet in one sitting, my son just is not able to. His focus does not stay for that length of time. So we will have to break it up into different breaks to get him to complete the entire worksheet. And I will show you some examples of how we do that. The other things that I will say is allow them to have control of the things that they can have control of. So maybe it's allowing them to write in a marker instead of a pencil, or maybe it's a pencil, but it's a colored pencil of their choice. Or which worksheet would you like to work on first? Would you like to do math, or would you like to do your writing? And if you're doing writing, giving them options on what letters they work on, etc. So we always try to give him some amount of control. My son absolutely thrives on being in control, and we've even had to create a card for him for your way, my way. So first we do it my way, and we do it with the correct, instructions for whatever the worksheet is that you're working on. And then maybe you flip the worksheet over and you let him draw or do it his way. We've had to even do this with his name. He really was frustrated with writing his name, and so he would write mountains instead. So we would actually have to ask him to, okay, first you do it my way, and then we can flip it over and do it your way. That just gives him that little bit of control that he needs in order to be able to do what we're asking him. So the second piece of that, this is how we would break up if we were doing some work with him. So say we wanted to get through a couple of activities or tasks. What we would do is we would give choices. So whether or not he wanted to work on first his math or his colors. And so that's, again, giving control. Will allow him to choose. And then what we do is we would write down the activity that we're going to work on. So that it'd be, first we're going to work on math, and then we're going to take a break. And so we have a menu board of different break options that he can choose from. And so we'll set a timer, and he's allowed to take either 3 or a 5-minute break if he did a good job doing his work during his work session. And so we'll just break up the different activities. He gets a few minutes in between. He can do a choice of different activities. So that's his reward menu, and then that's his break menu. Those are the ones that we use at school. We use a little different at home, and I don't necessarily have, like, say, cards for him of what his choices are. We would actually have, like, say, physical items, like, okay, first we're going to do math, and then we can play Legos for 5 minutes. We go over, we play Legos for 5 minutes, timer goes off, we come back to the table, we do work again. So then we're working on our writing. So we come back to the sheet, and anytime we're seeing any sort of behavior or a lack of focus or anything like that, what we would do is we would come back to the sheet and we'd be like, remember, first we're going to do math, then we're going to take a break. And then, you know, we do that to try to gain his focus again. So moving on to writing, we would do writing. We do space it out into the blocks. For my son specifically, we are working on some spacing issues with his letters. So typically what we would do is we would choose 2 letters or numbers that we know that he needs to work on with his fine motor skills. So we would choose those. Sometimes we'll even do what we call magic lines. So we'll actually take, like, a highlighter if he really needs some guidance on how to structure that letter. We'll do the magic lines, and then he can trace the magic line. And then the next box will be no magic line. And then the third one, we'll give him an option to do it in, like, a favorite marker or crayon or color or something fun that just makes it more fun for him. And then the last letter, so we'll take 2 that we know that he needs to work on, and then the last one we'll do is his choice. So he can choose whatever letter he wants. So again, that's just giving him some sense of control, that he has control of what's going to happen. And then again, we'll take a break. We could go back to Legos, or he could maybe do stickers or whatever, you know, the semi-preferred item is. Take the 3 to 5 minute break. Okay, time to go back to work. We could come back to what we had planned. Okay, next is writing, or I think we already did writing. Next would be our colors, and then we do the last worksheet. And then the other thing that we do with the rewards, you know, the highly preferreds, with school, we had a sticker chart. So one of the other things that we were doing is rewarding him for multiple days of good behavior. So we focus on the good, not the bad at school. And we actually changed that. The school was focusing on the bad, and they were actually doing tally marks of every time he did something bad. And so what that does for a child's mind is, instead he's tallying up he would come home asking, how many bad things did I do today, mommy? Well, obviously that's not what we want to focus on. We want to focus on the good and not the bad. And so we then changed up the chart so that it's focusing on what we want to see instead of what we don't want to see. And I'm sure in Jessica's videos, you've learned you always want to focus on what you do want to see rather than what you don't want to see. You got to do that in your languaging as well. Instead of telling them, you know, stop wiggling, you want to say, you know, I like how you're sitting still, you know, things like that. And so I was talking about the bigger rewards. We would give little rewards for when he would have just, say, one good day or earning all of his 10 stickers for the day. He would get, like, his preferred obviously is Legos. So everything you see right now is kind of Legos. These were just all little guys. He would just get, like, one little guy as a reward for daily having a really good day. And then we would set the expectation for him, like, if you got 3 good days in a row, you'll get a bigger reward. And we kept these out, like, right on top of our cabinets, so they were always there, always for him to see. And he got, like, one of these bigger rewards if he had multiple good days in a row. And obviously always just working with them with your language and letting them know the expectation or why they're getting a reward or why they're not getting the reward. So those are my tips. Those are what's working for my family. One of my biggest tips is just really knowing your child. And like I said, sometimes, you want to have a set schedule on when's schoolwork time and when's not. But just recently, even just this week, or this was actually past week, we had our therapist here in the home working with him. And it was very clear, my son has sensory processing disorder. And so sometimes he's just very, very fidgety, very wiggly. His focus is just not there. It was very clear to us, we weren't going to accomplish any work until we got that sorted out. So what we did is we did some like heavy work with him, moving his body. We did a silly song to get kind of the wiggles out of him. And then we came back and refocused on work. But we knew, and that took us probably 30 minutes before he was able to refocus. So I think a lot of it's coming down to just knowing your child and knowing when is a good time to work and when's not. So Jessica, those are my tips. That's what's working with my family. I hope these tips help for you and your family.
Yeah, thanks so much, Renee, for sharing that. One of the things I keep reiterating to parents is to try their best to make it fun. Start with easy activities, start with fun activities. For a lot of families, it's hard because kids are not used to having to do work at home. They're used to doing work in school. Home is where the child feels like he gets to relax and he gets to play. So changing that can be really challenging. And you found a way to do that with your son in a way that's really working. So I hope, like you said, these strategies help the families that I'm working with.
I'll add after for keeping it fun. So also work doesn't just have to look like worksheets. Some of the things that we've been doing, counting with coins. He's been really interested in coins, so we've been working on math with coins. We've been working on writing with chalk outside. Some of his reward activities are writing letters in shaving cream in a pan. So you can really incorporate those fun things and still accomplish, it's kind of a sneaky way to accomplish schoolwork and still get that learning in a fun way.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. So thank you so much. If you're a parent and you're watching this, if you have more questions, I would love to help. I mean, it's not easy to all of a sudden transition from a parent working out of their house while their kid is in school to a parent working from home and trying to homeschool their child. You add autism into the equation. It's overwhelming for anyone, but I want you to know I have your back. We're in this together. We're going to make this work every day. I'm creating content for you, and I would love to answer your questions. Head over to my website, hopeeducationservices.com. I am committed to answering every single question I've gotten. You may have noticed over the last week, I've brought a lot of guests on to answer questions I couldn't answer. No matter what is going on in your life, we'll figure out a solution.